Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm ranking all of Stonemaier Games games. This is the continuation of a series that I've been doing, starting with CMON. I went from there to Awakened Realms, now I'm doing Stonemaier. That's by your request, by the way, which means, before I dive into all of these games, if you do want to see me review or rank, not review, if you want to see me rank any other company's games, by all means, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, thumbs up the ones you want to see. Slowly but surely, I'll probably get to all of them. All of them is probably relative. The ones I'll get to are those that, if a company has enough games to actually rank. If they have 3 games, I'm not going to do a full video around them. If they have enough games for me to actually rank, and then also I have to have played enough of those games that it's meaningful. Speaking of which, I've actually played every single Stonemaier Games game with a minor asterisk. The minor asterisk going to be Rolling Realms Redux is the only one. Rolling Realms Redux was recently announced. It's another continuation of Rolling Realms. I haven't played that. I have played regular Rolling Realms, so basically the same thing. As far as unannounced titles, obviously that's a whole different conversation. But as of right now, I've played every single Stonemaier Games base game, which I didn't know I had. I don't know. Did I play everything from Awakened Realms? I'm not sure if I did. With CMON, I know I missed a few. Awakened Realms, I don't recall offhand. Perhaps not. I don't remember. But for sure, with Stonemaier over here, I've played all of their base games. Expansions, some yes, some no. But I won't be heavily diving into the expansions. I might touch upon it where it impacts my opinion of a game. But otherwise, I'm really just focusing on the, I believe, 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 different games. I'll be touching upon those games. Ranking those games from the lowest all the way to the highest. I'll give my scores for those games as well. I score on a 5-point scale. I'll be giving you the scores I gave. I should note as well, some of the scores may have been adjusted since the original review. I think only downwards 2 or 3 of these have lost half a point, which over time some games will, especially if they don't hold up as well over time, which, you know, you said the words overtime twice there, but you get the point, you get the idea. But that said, let's go ahead and start this list off. I will, of course, have timestamps to everything down below. I'll also note, by the way, when I say I played every single one of their games, the only one I hadn't was Smitten over here. I had Smitten. I've had it for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I've had this for a while since it came out. I never actually tabled it. So now I tabled it, and now you can expect it to show up in a 6 small box game reviews, maybe a dedicated review. I don't think so. We'll see. But you'll also get my short thoughts and opinions here. I played this one specifically. I actually played it like 7 times. I played this one specifically for the sake of doing this video. Anyways, with that, let's go ahead and start off with the one that won't actually be ranked. Despite me saying that I'm going to be ranking all their games, Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia, I will not be ranking that one only because I played it so long ago that I can't remember my takeaway on the game. It's a long time. Like, this is a game that I played when I first got into gaming. My friend had a copy of the game. It wasn't like some random game. My friend had a copy of it. I was at somebody's house on the weekend, and we just ended up playing it. And I don't remember much about it. I remember he wrote a very dedicated blog post. He was very passionate about it. He wrote a whole blog post. He loved the game. I remember enjoying it well enough, but I don't remember where it lies in my rankings, and I couldn't, with any degree of confidence, tell you where it was. I am interested enough in Euphoria to want to play it again, sort of. I also don't remember being blown away enough that I'm like, I have to play that game once upon a time. So my guess is Euphoria would be anywhere between a 3 to a 4. I'd be surprised if it was higher than a 4 in terms of the review score, only because if it was higher than a 4, I think I'd remember it a lot more firmly, and if it was lower than a 3, I think I'd remember it a lot more firmly. I remember having a good time, playing a good game, and that's kind of it. I could barely tell you the mechanisms of the game. It's been so long. I'm 99% sure there's worker placement, and even that, I'm only 99% sure, and that's a kind of central core mechanism. So while I have played Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia, it was so long ago that I have no real recollection to be able to talk about it, so that's going to be kind of left off the list, despite me spending a minute or two telling you how proud I was that I've played all their games, so it goes off on the side. But let's work our way from the bottom up, starting with Pendulum. Pendulum was an experimental game that I believe they hyped very highly. They were very into it. Reviews and previews and all these things started showing up, and there was a lot of buzz showing up. I remember in particular watching Tom Vassell reviewing the game, because Tom was reviewing the game. He's like, everyone seems to like it. I don't get it. I don't understand why this is being so well received. It doesn't work that great. It's an okay game. Now, I didn't play it for a while because for very shortly after that, more and more reviews from individuals playing the game showed up, and over time it became clear that while there are a lot of things going on in Pendulum that make it very clever, and I have since played Pendulum, I think Pendulum is a very clever game that is actually pretty decent. My main critique against Pendulum is the fact that the real-time mechanism of the timers means every single time I've played it, inevitably people are screwing screwing up the process of the way the timers work and the things you can or can't touch depending on where the timers are. And because it's a real-time game, that kind of decision, fatigue, that kind of pause, deer in headlights moments when you can't figure out what to do next, or where you realize someone's breaking the rule but it's all happening in real time, just makes it a mess of an experience. I think it's a good experience for those who play Pendulum with an active group who all know what's up, who are willing to play it a lot. I think it's great. But it's never, not great, I think it's good. But it's never a game I would want to introduce to new players because of the panic of real time and the competitive nature of it and the inherent cheating that will guaranteed occur every single time someone wants to play it. The actual rest of it, the tableau building, is a fine game. Nothing wrong with it. It works, it does the job. But the whole timer mechanism makes it almost a gimmick of a game, and one that didn't work as well for me. That's going to be a 3 out of 5. I had it in my collection for like way too long, and eventually I was like, you know what? I'm overdue on a review for this one. So I think my review went up like 6 months ago for a 2.5-year-old game. From there we have Between Two Cities, another game I gave a 3 out of 5. I was in the unfortunate position of having played Between Two Castles, Between Two Castles of Magic and Ludwig, which was a team-up between Stonemaier Games and Bezier, combining Between Two Cities and Castle of Magic and Ludwig, and they have Between Two Castles of Magic and Ludwig, which I enjoyed enough. We'll get to that later on this list. But I played Between Two Castles after that, Between Two Cities after that, and I didn't think that Between Two Cities was good enough. It was a fine game. You basically have this little drafting mechanism, you're building out your little city. It is a fun little system, but it wasn't good enough, which is something you're going to hear in some of these other ones before we get to the better games over here. But I remember being like, this is a good experience. I'm fine with it. But if I never play it again, I won't feel like I missed much. And ultimately, that's where Between Two Cities was. It had a little bit of, put this next to that, score these in sets here, do that. And it was fine. It was a fine game. It was honestly mostly forgettable. I reviewed it a while ago, don't remember much about it. I think I actually played the Between Two Cities Essential Edition, not even the original one, and it just didn't particularly blow me away. It was an okay experience of tile placement with certain rules and restrictions that didn't shine in a space that has so many great games that do that better. We have My Little Scythe coming in next at a 3 out of 5. This one's higher up, by the way, because at least this one with a target audience, I enjoy it more. My Little Scythe, which is the kids' version of Scythe that makes it a little family-friendly game. I've played this game like 6 or 7 times, at least, plus the expansion, so I don't know. I've played it a bunch. I've played it enough times. And I find that my kids enjoy playing My Little Scythe, but it's one of those games that I don't enjoy quite as much. It feels very friendly in a way that almost takes away from the competitive experience, which for a kids game is not a bad thing, but it feels like it's competitive while trying not to be competitive, and just give me a cooperative game at that point, or give me a game that's lighter in the mechanics. The overall takeaway My Little Scythe, it is a beautiful production. It kind of has the vibes of Scythe in the terms of different ways you're trying to score stars in the game, so it has that core aspect at play, but the rest of it is very friendly, like, go ahead, generate some fruits in someone else's train, walk around, collect this thing. Can you actually pick this stuff up? Maybe. Will you get hit by a pie in the face and drop it all? Sure. It was an okay experience that builds off what Scythe did, makes it kid-friendly with a degree of charm that is certainly a decent amount of charm in it, tons of charm, loaded with charm. But ultimately, the game experience for me was okay at best. We have Wingspan. Wingspan is going to be a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I believe I gave it a 4 way back when. I have dinged it a point since over time. But Wingspan is dinged it half a point over time. Wingspan is a very popular game. Very popular. For me, it's always been an okay experience in a genre full of great games that give you tons of ways to collect cards, place them in a tableau, score as many points as possible. For whatever reason, Wingspan never landed with me. I don't know. Again, I still had fun with it. To be very clear, I've had fun with it. I've played through the expansions. Not all of them. I've played through some of the expansions. I think Wingspan is a very good game at what it's trying to do, but I never felt an affinity for the cards themselves. For me, I think, and this is something I've harped upon in a lot of reviews of both Wingspan and in other games, I like it when I care about the cards. I like it when there's that card in Terraforming Mars, that card in Everdell, and they all matter to what I'm doing. And in Wingspan, I kind of felt like, whatever, just give me any bird and I'll kind of make it fit in my puzzle. And hardcore Wingspan enthusiasts will likely disagree with that, and that's okay. But the experience I had was just not caring that much about the cards, not feeling any particular, oh my gosh, I got this card, this works so well for my engine, and that took away a lot of the fun for Wingspan for me. It's still a good game. It's still rewarding. It's still fast and simple and gives you a lot, well, simple but engaging, gives you enough strategy and different rows to lean on. There are still fun things going on with Wingspan. Ultimately, for me, it's a 3.5 out of 5, a good game, but wasn't particularly a great game. From there, above that, we have Smitten, another 3.5 out of 5, although this one I'm weirdly torn on. And again, you'll probably see either a full review or a roundup review of 6 small box games, but having just played Smitten like 6 or 7 times, both competitively and not competitively, cooperatively and solo, it's a fascinating little card puzzle that is much harder than you might think. The general idea is players are going to have hand of cards, or in solo you have 2 hands of cards. I don't know when I'm teaching this game over the other ones, maybe because I've talked about other games, I haven't talked about this before. And you're basically trying to play out an entire grid. Each card has certain restrictions, the way you place them out, of the teamwork required, and it's brutally hard. And the reason it's a 3.5 and not higher, honestly, is it is so ridiculously luck dependent. There is skill in the game, there is good plays and bad plays, but ultimately, like playing Solitaire before it, or any version of Solitaire, ultimately, sometimes you just get screwed. You just don't have the cards you need, and that makes it a game experience that you're like, I'll play Smitten well. Oh look, my first turn draw and I immediately can't play anything else. Whoops, I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That will happen when you play Smitten, and so I am both intrigued and compelled by the charming puzzle of a game that plays in 5 to 10 minutes as you try to fill out a little grid and work together either with yourself or with your teammate, and that's all fun. The fact that it's so luck dependent and so often you can play the optimal game and just not win. And by the way, this is one of those things, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone else is out there playing Smitten and they're playing it on a higher level and they're able to win, 70% of their games. I just haven't found that to be the case. I think that there is such a thing as optimal play, and I think despite the optimal play, I think so often you get stuck in you just can't make it work given the cards that you got. So I both enjoy the puzzle, but I feel it's too luck dependent for me to feel a stronger sense of agency, which is why it's at a 3.5 out of 5. Still enjoy it, and still want to keep playing it. It's a fun little pocket lane game to play whenever you, I don't know, airplanes, or just table space. Just play whatever you want. That's going to be Smitten, a 3.5 out of 5. Above that, we have Red Rising, another 3.5 out of 5. Red Rising is a game that I love the ending of it, but I don't love the gameplay. It's kind of based on the Fantasy Realm series. Ultimately, it's all about assembling a hand of cards. It's based on the IP as well, the books, the Red Rising book series, but ultimately trying to assemble these different hands of cards, each of which scores in different ways. So you have all these cards that score for either specific other cards, or genres of cards, or colors, or any number of different things. There's tons of different things that will score in the game for different patterns of stuff that you're trying to acquire. And for me, the end game, the hand that you build, is very satisfying. Trying to math out all your points, figure out how much you got, what was the top score you're able to achieve in this game. It can be a very satisfying end game. The actual game process itself, I find underwhelming. The decisions you make to gather cards, I think they took the Fantasy Realm system, they made the core middle of the game more complicated, and ultimately to that end, they kind of kept the best parts of Fantasy Realms, added a middle level that I don't find rewarding enough, and that made it so that I liked Red Rising enough that, I played it a lot. I mean, again, lots of relative. I played it a decent amount. I enjoyed it. I played after my review, but ultimately it did leave because I found that I was primarily playing it for the end game and not the game itself. And once you're doing that, just play Marvel Heroes Remix, or Fantasy Realms, which are the same core concept, but a lot faster. So Red Rising is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Still an enjoyable game. I just think there are better games that use the system more effectively, the originators of that system. Above that, we have Scythe, a 3.5 out of 5. I know, putting Scythe and Wingspan lower down this list does me have a little bit out of alignment with the general popularity of Stonemaier Games, which is fine. At the end of the day, the whole point of these lists is they're my opinions, they're my rankings and all that. But Scythe is a game that I've kept trying. I've played Scythe maybe 4 times by now, which granted, kept trying is a loose term, but I played it the first 2 times. I think I played it 2 times in one night the very first time, and it's that's good. This game was loved by then. By the time I played it, it was a well-loved, well-respected area control game. Not really area control, dudes in a map game, sort of, with fighting but not real fighting, with action selection and variable ways to achieve points in the game. A very, very well-loved game that has had tons of expansions and content and legacy elements and all these things added to the game. I've only ever played the base game. And for me, Scythe just didn't ever land. It was this is good, I'm enjoying this, but I'm not loving this, I'm just enjoying this. It was a good game. And so I tried it again, maybe 6 months later. I tried it again, maybe 6 months later. I may have played it a 5th time, I don't remember. But I have continued to try it because I keep feeling there's something there I'm missing. Even now, there's a part of me, now that I play and love Expeditions, there's a part of me that wants to go back to Scythe and try that out again. Or maybe play it with the full Rise of Legacy campaign, or Rise of Fenrir campaign, Rise of Fenrir campaign. And so I kind of want to, but also I have so many games that I'm not tabling as it is. Maybe I should just focus on either unplayed games or games I love, as opposed to trying to approach Scythe yet again. For me, it is a good gaming experience. I have had fun with it. I've had a satisfying time. I wouldn't have kept going back to it if it wasn't at least a good time, and it was a good time, but it never hooked me the way some other game systems have. That's Scythe, a 3.5 out of 5. We have Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest, another 3.5 out of 5. I believe I initially gave it a 4. It did kind of drop over time. It's one that just had a harder time hitting the table. Libertalia is built on the original Libertalia system, which I think I probably would rank higher. It's hard to say because when Libertalia Winds of Galecrest came out, I'd already played the original Libertalia, and I do think Winds of Galecrest smooth-lined some aspects of the game in a way that made the game experience slightly better. But I think that the art really, while the art is good, I don't think the art captures the experience or makes me want to play it as much as the original Libertalia, which granted I'm not playing either right now, so it's not sure if that is exactly fair. But ultimately, I think Libertalia Winds of Galecrest was a good mechanical upgrade to the game. I think the art was good art, but not as much of a good fit for the game. And the end result that I had with it is that I found lower player counts were more strategic and enjoyable, but other games are games I'd rather play in that space. And higher player counts I felt were a little too chaotic for real strategy to reign. And so it fell into a weird space where I both appreciated it, I enjoyed it, I think it's a fun game system, but over time I found that it wasn't getting tabled as much, another 3.5 out of 5. From there we have Between Two Castles, Mad King Ludwig, another 3.5 out of 5, and I think this one also lost half a point over time. Between Two Castles, Mad King Ludwig has you stacking various tiles as you build castles between yourself and the other players. And again, built on Between Two Cities and Castle Mad King Ludwig, but you're trying to build castles between other players. I've played this with the expansion as well, and you're trying to just draft different tile rooms that all score in different ways, using the room structures from Castle Mad King Ludwig, but very different ways as far as how they execute in between two castles, and you're trying to score your two castles, scoring the lower of the two castles, if I recall correctly. It's been a while. But ultimately, so you're incentivized to try to build up the best points in each castle, and the person who wins is going to have the highest low scoring castles. So you're really trying to incentivize to build everything simultaneously. I think it's a fun game system. I like that kind of game system. I still enjoy that kind of game system. Ultimately, I think it works best at higher player counts, and the core mechanic still comes down to trying to place things in ways that score off of others. One of the things that makes it slightly more compelling, more challenging, is the fact that you're juggling two different castles at once, which, if you like that kind of system, oh my gosh, what's the game? Splitto. I think Splitto is a great game that kind of gives you that charm of building two piles at once, but in a much faster gameplay that is very different. I think ultimately Between Two Castles, Mad King Ludwig, while the idea of the sharing of the scoring I like, and I've seen it in other games, I think that the actual ways rooms score off each other was definitely good, but I have games that do that better, and so for me that's why it started off as a 4, and then over time just shifted down to a 3.5 out of 5 as I continued to play it more, and other game systems over time became more compelling. I think I said appelling because I was trying to combine compelling and appealing, which is ironic considering that Between Two Castles, Mad King Ludwig is a combination of two different games as well. So let's pretend that that was planned. Next up, we have Rolling Realms, which is going to be another 3.5 out of 5. I like Rolling Realms, and it's actually going to be our highest 3.5 out of 5. After that, we move to the 4s over here. But Rolling Realms is a 3.5 out of 5, and it is one of those games I've referred to it as a guilty pleasure roll and write. It is far from the best roll and write I have. It's arguably one of the worst roll and write games I play nowadays, but it has a guilty pleasure aspect to it. I find it's just charming and fun to grab 3 different realms from a constantly exploding universe of realms. They've built tons of realms, and I mentioned already, they have Rolling Realms Redux as well, another new base game in the series, and so ultimately, they give you a lot of variability, a lot of different ways to try to juggle different cards and play them together, and then it also gave you a fun little mini golf version, or Realms Golf, Rolling Realms Golf, I don't remember the name for it, but they gave you a little golf set of mini games to go through where you play different combinations of realms and try to score the best you can. I thought it was very, very satisfying as an experience. The variability is what keeps the game alive. The combination of different realms together is what makes the game fun and fresh. Ultimately, for me, it's still in the 3.5 out of 5 category. It's still lower than most of the roll and writes in terms of the pure mechanical enjoyment I get out of it. The main thing that keeps it whimsical and alive for me is the vast variety of realms that they have at your disposal. Which starts us off with the 4s, and the lowest 4 we're going to have is Wyrmspan. Wyrmspan is a new version of Wingspan. A newer version of Wingspan that, better or worse, is going to be an interesting conversation. I actually haven't checked the ratings recently. I probably should check the overall ratings of the game systems. Wingspan is obviously vastly more popular, but it has had time to be more popular. Wyrmspan is interesting to see where that one develops and goes. I think Wyrmspan is a very good game, and to me it's a big improvement over the Wingspan line. Wingspan to me was an easy game not to keep. As much as I enjoy it, I enjoy other games more. Wyrmspan was a hard decision for me, and I don't have Wyrmspan for context. I did finally get rid of it. I was like, you know what, it's hard. Hard decisions abound, but ultimately I still enjoy other card systems more than Wyrmspan, even though I do feel Wyrmspan is a big improvement over Wingspan. And I'm happy to play Wyrmspan whenever. I think Wingspan I'd be a little more reluctant to play a game because I'd rather play something else. Wyrmspan I think I'd still happily play with anyone. It is, again, still a notch higher. It's a 4 to 5. It's a good game experience. The things you can do in Wyrmspan, the way you have the little cave patterns going, it kind of gives you more of a cycle of being able to cascade and get that one more turn out of it. I do find the dragons a bit more rewarding and a bit more focused. Still not the level to which I might see from Terraforming Mars, Everdell, and other games, but I do find the cards matter a bit more. I am a bit more excited to get that dragon or that hatchling that's going to perfectly complement my engine. I do find it's a step closer in that right direction. Ultimately, Wyrmspan is an improvement, still a slightly lower game for me, but again, a 4 to 5. At this point, we are getting into, well, better scores. And I think actually Wyrmspan is going to be the only game I don't, well, the next one's complicated. The next one we have, moving up after Wyrmspan, is going to be Charterstone. Charterstone is another 4 out of 5, and that's why I say it's complicated, because above Charterstone, the rest of these games I all own. Wyrmspan is one I recently got rid of, and Charterstone is complicated because I've played the full Charterstone cycle twice now. That is 24 games on a legacy game. I think it's 24. I'm pretty sure. I think the Charterstone series is 12 games if I recall correctly, but I've played it twice now, which going through an entire legacy game a full second time is a good testament to an experience that was enjoyable enough to hook you into that experience, to hook you in to not just playing the legacy game, but playing it twice. That is not a small ask. I'm guessing the number of people who've played Charterstone twice is not a huge number, although they do have the Steam game. That might change things. They do have it on Steam, so it might change the entire assumption of who and how it gets played. But I do like Charterstone. Ultimately, it is a worker placement, engine building, tableau building. Is engine building more tableau building? It's a worker placement game where you're building out your little duchy. I don't know if it's called duchy. Your kingdom, your area, your place on the board across a variety of games. It is fairly straightforward in terms of the actual gameplay, but it gives you that sense of unlocking and building out your own kingdoms as you play, which makes for a rewarding experience, and also has beautiful, cute little artwork, and you're trying to score these various patrons and try to maximize your score in different ways. It gives you a nice arc of gameplay that is satisfying, rewarding. It's a little on the lighter side, but I think it has a good arc that keeps you invested in what you're doing and what you're unlocking as you go through it. I think it does not outstay its welcome too much. By the time you get to the end, you're ready to end it and close it off. I think if it was twice as long in a single session, meaning I've played it twice, but that was like 3 years apart. But if it was 24 games or whatnot, if it was double the number of games, I do think I'd get tired of it. I think by the time you get to the end, you're kind of getting the pacing and what you want to try to get out of the experience. So I think it's really well designed. Overall, I've had a good time with it. It's a 4 out of 5. Next up, we have Tapestry, which is a complicated one. I've had a history with Tapestry, which is why sometimes you do try to reapproach things. There's a reason I kept going back to Scythe and trying it out and seeing if it's for me, and ultimately deciding, you know what, it's okay to just like a game sometimes. With Tapestry, I originally played Tapestry several times in one night. The first time I got it, I think I played it twice in one night, and then I played it like once or twice more, and then I can't remember, did I review it? I can't even remember. I may have gotten this before I started reviewing games, but I was into the Tapestry hype. I tried it out. I liked it. Kind of felt like Gone Shun Clever, but more complicated. It was like a little bit of a bunch of track scoring, but in a much bigger, more complicated game. Definitely had some complaints with it, but overall enjoyed my time. Ultimately, over the first few plays of the game, it became clear that the game wasn't totally balanced. As soon as it became clear only because a lot of people were expressing the opinion that the game wasn't fully balanced. It wasn't just myself. I would never say based on like, 5 or 6 plays, I would never say it was like unbalanced, but a lot of people, there were logged plays, and it became pretty clear that with people logging plays and tracking their wins, certain factions were scoring higher than others across a large set of data of plays. So they released the various update packs, and they released expansions and update packs and all those things. And so eventually I tried it again with one of the expansions, I don't remember which one, but also to try the solo mode, and I thought the solo mode was fun. But not like, oh my gosh, I need to have this and own this fun. It was fun. And so I think at that point I actually reviewed Tapestry way back. I think I did review Tapestry once on my channel, but it was based around the solo play experience. And then I kind of, moved on from it for the second time, because I got it back for that time. I moved on from the second time, and then eventually, 2 or 3 years later, started playing it on Board Game Arena. And I like it a lot on Board Game Arena, which has me at a place where I'm kind of back in the Tapestry vibe, although I still haven't played it in person. Even though I have some of the stuff, I haven't played it in person since playing it on Board Game Arena and falling back into the system. But I like it a lot. I've played it like 10 plus times on Board Game Arena. I enjoy it a lot. I've had a lot of fun going through the games, trying to maximize my tracks, trying the different factions, and so I am interested in I like it. I like it. I don't know if it's going to be just a Board Game Arena game for me, or if it's going to be a game that I enjoy in person just as much, but for me, Tapestry is a 4 out of 5. I've had a very interesting journey with it, but one that nonetheless I enjoy. Which brings us to our top 3 over here, and right about now you can probably figure out, especially if you pause and really think about it, but without pausing even that much, you might be able to figure out the 3 that are missing from my rankings over here. Which 3 games are my top 3? And with that little pause, we're going to go to our third one over here. Number 3 is going to be Viticulture, coming in at a 4.5 out of 5. I love Viticulture, although I'm not fully convinced that it's a forever game for me, because while I have loved it, I do know that it's one that over the past year or two, the amount of times I play it has shifted downwards. But whenever I do play it, I'm like, this is why I play Viticulture. It's so good as you plant your harvest. And by the way, I have Tuscany. I have the Essential Edition. I have Tuscany that mixes it up across 4 seasons instead of just 2. I have a lot of content for the game, little expansion packs and whatnot. I don't have the Viticulture the World, Viticulture World. I have played Viticulture World, and I think it's a fine game, but I'd rather play Viticulture any day of the week. To me, Viticulture World is just a less fun experience than Viticulture, while building on the same system. But I think Viticulture gives you worker placement. It gives you worker placement with sequential worker placement with the seasons. You have a ton of cards in the game from the various, I mean, the yellow and blue cards are going to be the best ones, obviously, although the structures as well, once you're playing with those, just give you a ton of ways to break the game in small little adjustments. I talked about how when I play something like Wingspan or Wyrmspan, I want to care about the cards. Well, when I play Viticulture, I care about the cards. The cards I get and how they fit into my engine, it does matter so much as you try to produce the best wine and sell it for the most and get money and points and all those fun things. I think ultimately Viticulture is an excellent experience. It's a Stonemaier game that I held off from playing for a very long time because frankly, the art does not pull me in. This presentation just doesn't make me think that I want to play it. It just looks very drab and dry, like wine kind of dry. And ultimately, as much as I enjoy Viticulture, it took me a long time to finally dive into it. But now that I have, it is still an excellent experience that I continue to enjoy playing. Our number 2 is going to be Apiary. It's actually interesting. My favorite Stonemaier games are the most recent ones. But we have Apiary coming at number 2 as a 4.5 out of 5. I think Apiary really is an excellent experience that combines engine building, it combines worker placement, it combines bee placement and whatnot. It has a lot of things going for it as far as the 6 or 7 different, I think it's 6 different regions on the board. You can place your little bees, your beeples, as you try to figure out how you're going to time their growth, because you also have pullback turns. So when you take pullback turns, you can get resources from the various farms you have. Meanwhile, you're trying to balance tons of different tiles and cards that are going to help your engine. There's a whole deck of cards that's going to help you. You have starting factions that are going to be wildly asymmetric, and you're going to have a whole host of tiles from farms to, I can't remember the main one. There's farms, there's 3 kinds of tiles. I just remember the names for them, but there's the farm ones, which are just farms for pulling back and storing resources. There's going to be the, I think, developments, is that what they're called? I'm not sure offhand, but the little blue ones that basically give you ongoing bonuses for everything you do, making your engine better. You can suddenly do things that other players can't, or you get bonuses at times other players don't. And then there's the one-time use ones, which give you strong bonuses, and they all help you in a variety of ways, plus, of course, the actual bee honey tiles that give you points at the end of the game. There's so much variability to the experience that it is just such a delightful game. I think Apiary has it's an excellent experience. It has been one of my favorite Stonemaier games, my second favorite to be specific, and one that I was not expecting a ton from because bees in space seems like an interesting theme. Stonemaier likes to mess around with different themes, and some of them land and some not so much, but I think bees in space, the game has pulled it through for me. Which brings me to my number 1 Stonemaier games, which again, I should be clear by now because I haven't talked about it yet, but we have Expeditions is easily my number 1 Stonemaier game, and it's the only 5 out of 5 on this list. The Expeditions is a 5 out of 5 to me. I love this game. I have so much fun playing Expeditions every single time that I table it. It works well at a variety of player counts, not 5. It works well at a variety of player counts. I think it's best at 3 players. It's good at 2. It's good at 4. And I have played it at 5, and I think it's fine at 5, but it's not my ideal player count. But ultimately, Expeditions to me gives you, when you talk about cards mattering, this is the kind of experience that I think about when I think about cards mattering. Cards matter in Expeditions. You are basically trying to build a little engine of wandering your little mech around the board, going through a cycle of taking your card action, taking a move action, and taking the action of the location tile that you're on. The way you time and sync these things all together, as you gather various cards and build up your hand, as you start trading in those cards to build items and meteors and quests and all these other things in the game, you are constantly cashing in on a mismatch of different abilities from all the cards you've brought towards you, and the way you cycle those, the way you combine everything is going to build your own unique element of the way your mech operates and how fast you can ramp in those victory points. I love Expeditions every single time I play it. It is a delightful little construct and a puzzle of how different card abilities mesh and interact in different ways, and no 2 experiences have resulted in anything remotely close to the same engine being built. And so again, what I've talked about this a few times in this video, the idea that the cards matter for me, that is everything. I love it when the abilities make the game. This is true in Apiary as well, by the way. Apiary doesn't really have, well, it does have cards, but the thing that really matters in Apiary are those tiles and the way you combine different abilities. You'll see that in Viticulture and Apiary and Expeditions. My top 3 Stonemaier games all have that in common, where you are constantly tweaking different aspects of a core engine depending on the other elements you have in play that all drive you towards the best possible experience. For me, Expeditions is a 5 out of 5 and my favorite Stonemaier game. And that's my ranking of Stonemaier games. As I said at the beginning of this video, let me know what other publishers you want to see done, and slowly, bit by bit, we'll get to them all, or we'll try to get to as many of them as we possibly can. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Let me know what your favorite Stonemaier game is down in the comments down below. And as always, I hope you have a good one.